Are you on your way to jail? Perhaps your photography is being targeted by the fake news police. Sky replacement in Photoshop is a powerful tool, and it's growing in popularity. But can we continue to use it without consequences? Over the last few years, photography has become more popular than ever. And it's not just the professionals running around with large format cameras photographing national parks. It's anyone with an iPhone. Indeed, social media is flooded with stunning images with extraordinary, breathtaking skies. And the competition for the most jaw-dropping image is on the rise. All this talk about skies reminds me of this old adage. Red skies at night, sailors delight. Red skies at morning, sailors take warning. With the power of Photoshop sky replacement, I fear the future adage is going to be something like this. Red skies at night, photographers delight. Red skies caught on the morning news, photographers blues. I mean, are the cheap fake police going to throw us in jail? I don't think so. But what are the consequences of using fake skies? Whether created by AI or another photographer, these skies are not ours. I mean, we didn't make them. Perhaps when these images are publicly displayed, whether in an art gallery or on social media, a disclaimer should accompany the photo. To me, it's like plagiarism. Even if you use your own skies created from the same area, it's like submitting a term paper from another class and kind of passing it off as original work. Indeed, it's a fake in my opinion. But all that aside, the big question is it ethical to replace your sky with another? Honestly, it depends on the intended use and how the image is promoted. Imagine a scenario where you're competing in a photo competition. You return to the same location at least half a dozen times, lugging your gear uphill both ways on a 4-mile hike to find a striking landscape. After tirelessly working to make your vision become a reality, you're finally satisfied. You enter your hard-earned work into the competition. A winner is selected several days later, and sadly, you're not it. However, upon seeing the winning image, you notice that your competition had submitted a photograph with the same subject that you'd selected, except the sky was absolutely breathtaking. Indeed, it was the sky you'd hoped to capture. But no matter how many times you returned, you just couldn't pull it off. However, with a sigh of relief, you realize the image is indeed fantastic, and it's better than yours. You think to yourself, clearly this winner worked harder than I did. The cash prize, recognition to the victor, they're well deserved. You silently tell yourself, I'll do better next time. I'll work even harder. Several months later, you hear in the morning news, a disgraced local photographer had used a fake sky to win the very competition you sadly lost. So, how do you feel about that? I don't think anyone would argue with the ethics of this scenario. But what if the winning photographer spent weeks perfecting the sky replacement in Photoshop, investing countless hours honing the image? I mean, where's the harm? Both photographers worked very hard. Indeed, both photographs could be considered works of art. Nevertheless, it comes down to how the art is portrayed. Unfortunately, when viewing images on social media, who knows what's real versus what's fake? But like many photographers, I draw inspiration and direction from viewing the work of others. Nowadays, smartphones have made everyone a photographer. With social media and powerful tools like sky replacement and Photoshop, it's never been more competitive. With everyone across the world uploading everything from the ridiculously stupid to the extraordinary, social media has set unrealistic or fake expectations that many photographers feel they have to live up to. Nevertheless, photographers have to keep in mind that many of these unrealistic images, they weren't created by professional photographers, but by those searching for likes on social media or those looking to elevate their status to compete with the pros. Indeed, the world is fast-paced, and many people often seek the shortest path to success. In a world traveling at 100 miles an hour, the fear of being left behind is a real concern. Everyone wants to get there quickly, but not everyone is willing to make the sacrifices and take the necessary steps. Most take advantage of modern technology. Electricity, running water, supermarkets, fast food, modern amenities have afforded many of us copious amounts of free time to pursue our dreams and passions. Time that would have been inconceivable just a few short years ago. However, most take these conveniences for granted. Honestly, I think it's made us lazy in many ways. Don't get me wrong, look, I don't want to regress to the Stone Age, but I do want to use my spare time wisely. And if returning to locations again and again is necessary to make my vision a reality, then that's what I'm going to do. For me, it's well worth the extra time to make it rather than fake it. Look, I understand if you're a big fan of sky replacement. I mean, it's a great tool. But before you blow me up and slam me in the comment section, just hear me out. I'm not saying that sky replacement is wrong. In fact, some of the things I've seen in Photoshop have just blown my hair back. When you think about it, is there any real difference between a photographer who uses brushes and masks and filters in Photoshop versus an artist who uses brushes and paint to paint on a canvas? I mean, even Ansel Adams used dodging and burning techniques to manipulate light in the darkroom. He wanted to transfer his pre-visualized image to the final print. Remember, Ansel said you don't take a photograph, you make it. And Photoshop is no different than Ansel's darkroom. I often use Photoshop for focus stacking, exposure blending. Are these skills not art? Indeed, some of the art created in Photoshop is just as interesting and creative as some of the best canvas paintings I've ever seen. On that note, many people in the art community still refuse to accept photography as a legitimate art. Is this old-fashioned thinking? I think so. Regardless, I'm not opposed to sky replacements, but I think a disclaimer is in order. Minor edits like removing trash, cropping, exposure blending, they don't misrepresent one's work. But major alterations like replacing a sky with the work of others or even a sky from a different location, that's completely different in my opinion. However, there's no doubt about it, art is subjective. I mean, the dictionary kind of defines art as the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination. And let's not make the mistake of excluding this application of human skill as a form of art, but rather, like many of us may recall from high school, let's place each creation in its proper subcategory of art. Still, I would not sell or post an image on social media without a disclaimer that states that the image is not original. At least you may avoid the embarrassing question, is that real? I mean, think about it. You've likely heard or been asked that question before. And ponder this scenario for a moment. You replaced your mundane sky with this stunning, glowing red masterpiece in Photoshop. During a social gathering at home, one of your guests notices a spectacular photo hanging on your living room wall. Overtaken by the photo's majestic lure, the guest asks, "Is this real?" In other words, is it too good to be true? I mean, think about your response. How would you answer that question? Indeed, why do some people seem to care enough to ask the question in the first place? People often draw inspiration from the accomplishments of those with determination and true grit. There's something in our DNA that drives us to pursue and value hard-to-reach goals. As John F. Kennedy said, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they're easy, but because they're hard. Honestly, I think that's why people are so shocked by anything fake. Fake is not synonymous with hard work, but rather with taking shortcuts or the easy way. When reviewing my work, many things come to mind. Could this image be better? Does it really reflect what I saw? The feelings, the emotions I felt, the experience, the journey, and the difficulties I overcame to make the photograph. Indeed, when done correctly, a single photograph is a powerful tool, and it can encapsulate an entire experience. Although it's easier to replace a sky in Photoshop. However, I choose to return to the scene again and again for many reasons. But above all, the experience and being in the field, that's what really counts. That's what's important. When present in the moment, the photograph I make is secondary to the experience I have with my surroundings. Indeed, an exceptional photograph is it's kind of like icing on the cake. Albeit as a landscape photographer, most of my images I make, they're ordinary or average at best, but occasionally one is fortunate enough to experience those rare and spectacular moments in time. And if you're prepared, you capture that moment forever in an image. I think Ansel Adams said it best, at least the way I see it. He said, you don't make a photograph with just a camera. You bring to the act of photography all the pictures you've seen, all the books you've read, the music you've heard, the people you've loved. Indeed, it's life's experiences that matter most. As I mentioned earlier, I often review my work. And years from now, I don't want to be looking over my images confused over which sky was real or which was fake. Depending on your goals and artistic expression, though, this may not matter to you. Indeed, Photoshop does such an incredible job of replacing skies, it's just mind-blowing. I honestly can't tell which is fake and which is real. In this image, I've been to this location several times, attempting to capture the windmill at the right angle under the perfect sky in the right season. But because it's a state park, I have limited access. It makes it quite difficult to make the image that I've pre-visualized in the mind's eye. Although I'm quite happy with this image, the windmill just isn't facing the right direction. I need a full view of the blades, as in this image. But I've been unable to capture that magnificent sky with the mill facing in the right direction. Nevertheless, I used Photoshop to kind of bring in a few skies that I thought would realistically match the scene. I was careful to orient the direction of light to match reality. Indeed, it's also important to make sure that the color cast provided by the sky is also reflected in the subject and in the surrounding area. This particular sky is one that was provided in Photoshop although I might have downloaded it from Adobe. Anyway, I can't remember, but see my point? But I know it's not mine. On that note, I did use one of my own skies from the same location, and I try to make the image kind of all mine. But still, there's just something about it that just doesn't feel right. Nevertheless, when I zoom into 100 or even 200%, even in the fine details, I can't tell this is a fake. Maybe somebody more skilled at detecting fakes can see what I'm missing. Honestly, I would be completely satisfied with my original image had the mill been facing the right direction. However, I plan to return to get it right. I'll be honest, even though I really like this particular image with this sky, I know it's not mine, and it bothers me. Although I completely understand the art of using these tools in Photoshop, for me, at least for now, I can't see using this tool for my type of photography. Even though I could easily upload the image to my website and sell it, it would be disingenuous. However, for those that add the disclaimer, I don't see any problem with that. Maybe I'm behind the times. I want my work to be done the old-fashioned way. I want to earn it without any shortcuts. Something else to consider. How will your work be judged in the future? What happens after several years of uploading images to Instagram? I mean, your images might begin to look suspiciously like others. I mean, after all, is everyone going to be using the same spectacular skies conveniently provided by Photoshop? In the future, maybe we'll be asked to label all fake photographs. Who knows? I think Photoshop sky replacement is a great tool for many people, but not for the conscientious landscape photographer seeking an adventure. I hope you found this video useful. You may want to check out my video on the lost art of focus, how and where to focus to get the sharpest images possible. I'll leave a link in the video description. If you like this video though, hit that like button and consider subscribing. And as always, if I don't see you down the road, maybe I'll see you on the trail.